China renewing its rejection of the South China Sea arbitration ruling on its 10th anniversary. China's reaffirmation comes in direct response to a joint statement by the U.S. and other allies reaffirming their commitment to maintaining a free and open region. Maria spoke to House China Select Committee Chairman John Molinaro on Sunday Morning Futures, addressing China's threat to global security. Watch.
What are your observations about what China is doing right now?
Well, I think they're doing their usual thing. They're trying to intimidate. They're trying to threaten neighbors and show off their military capabilities. You know, their goal is to have 1,000 nuclear warheads by 2030. And we've seen them doing these kinds of tests more frequently. I think that they're trying to show that they're the dominant power in the region, and it's a threat to the Indo-Pacific. It's a threat to the world, and so I think it's one of those areas where we need to push back.
Is this a message to the U.S. that they have the capability to reach the continental United States?
I think it's also a message to our allies and friends throughout the Indo-Pacific. When you consider that they're trying to intimidate and threaten the region, not to mention all their activities with respect to Taiwan, we see them becoming increasingly aggressive and threatening to their neighbors and people throughout the region.
Joining me now, Gatestone Institute Senior Fellow Gordon Chang. Gordon, it's great to have you on set with us. We have a lot of questions for you this morning, but your thoughts to that?
Yeah, the important thing here is that it's not just the South China Sea anymore. Yesterday was, by the way, the 10th anniversary of the ruling in Philippines versus China, which invalidated China's claims to the South China Sea. China rejects that ruling, even though it's by treaty obligated to follow it. But the thing here is that it's not just South China Sea anymore. You have China laying a sovereignty claim to part of the Pacific Ocean. I mean, this is just ludicrous. But yes, China is moving towards Hawaii, and we've got to understand how far the Chinese are going to go, because Xi Jinping is not going to stop. He's going to continue going.
And you've also got the issue with Iran. Tiana, jump in here.
I'm fascinated. I guess these Chinese teapot refineries, their Iranian oil imports are at their lowest level in over 3 years. China, you know, for years they've been able to import massive amounts of oil at discount through these sanctioned nations, Venezuela, Iran, Russia. But what does the landscape look like now for Chinese oil importers?
Yeah, the teapots basically, their facilities are addicted to cheap oil, and cheap oil from places where China's not getting it anymore, Venezuela and Iran. You know, this is a disproportionate effect because the Chinese economy is addicted to cheap energy. It's not getting it anymore. Manufacturing right now is the critical pillar for China, because if there's any growth there, and we're not sure that there is, but if there is, it's because of exports. But exports are now being affected by higher energy costs.
So their economy is taking a big hit because of this. So
yes.
So he's got skin in the game to see this conflict with Iran end.
It has a lot of skin in the game, but right now China is a bystander. All they're doing is they're issuing these bland statements calling upon both Iran and the United States not to use force, to sort of go back to the ceasefire. But it has no ability to force either Iran or the United States to do that right now. And so Iran is pretty much, you know, is a bystander to really important events that are affecting, among other things, the Chinese economy and the oil.
Right, which was fragile already. And, you know, Gordon, President Xi also said that China's backing and friendship with North Korea is not going to change, and to safeguard both countries as global tensions rise. So he's actually doubling down on his commitment to Kim Jong-un in North Korea. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, North Korea has in the middle of this new surge in its nuclear weapons arsenal, and China's doing the same thing, as we heard from Chairman Molinaro. China probably has a lot more warheads than we estimated, and they are very much determined to build an arsenal that can intimidate us. They're going to use it to sort of try to back us down, like Putin backed down the United States and Europe in connection with the invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. And right now, the thing is Putin going to use nuclear weapons? Is China going to support him? These are issues that are going to really affect everybody, you know, not just Europe.
Interesting that you say that. You know, also AI, you talked about manufacturing. We got to talk about AI and China, because the AI race against China is really heating up now. And the Financial Times is reporting that OpenAI and Google are selling their advanced models to Chinese tech firms blacklisted by the Pentagon, despite the Trump administration's efforts to slow down Beijing's AI development, Gordon. I mean, they're also considering tightening their grip on homegrown technology, reducing access to U.S. companies.
Yes. Xi Jinping is trying his best to sort of cordon China off. Basically, his position is, you can give us your technology, America, but we're not going to allow any of our technology out. And what we need to do is just a little bit of reciprocity. We need to basically impose these costs on China. We're well ahead of China on AI. Now, that can change very quickly, but it will change if they can get our AI. And so what we should be doing is severing those links. And we certainly shouldn't be allowing our companies to deal with blacklisted Chinese businesses. This is just insane.
Yeah, but there's been reports. I mean, we've seen reporting that they've been able to get their hands through a black market on the Blackwell chip.
Yes.
That's why they're not really buying up the H200 like we thought they would.
Yeah, there's a lot of smuggling, especially through Singapore, and NVIDIA knows about the smuggling, and that's an issue that needs to be raised.
That's a whole nother interview. We'll have to do that. But I do want to get to this with you because China and the United States, really, they're in a dead heat for space, for outer space. Beijing launched a long March 10B reusable rocket Friday. It was caught by a giant net upon its descent. But this is very similar to what SpaceX does. And they're saying they want to be a major power player in space. They want to land astronauts on the moon by 2030. Maria actually had NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman on the program on the Space Race Watch.
America's obviously incredibly advantaged. We've been to the moon before. We did it many times during the Apollo era. We're going back, but we're doing it different this time. We're going back to, of course, build the moon base itself. We're very advantaged. Investments made in years past in what we call our CLIPS program allows us to scale up mass to the surface of the moon. We're very advantaged in terms of building the moon base. When it comes to putting the boots on the moon itself, well, that's a space race. It's going to be very close. I would say our timing right now is before the end of 2028. The Chinese have said they're going to put their technauts on the moon before 2030. That means sometime in 2029. It means this race is going to come down to months, not years.
Gordon, your reaction to what he just said?
Yeah. We always talk about the race to the moon, which is to put humans on the surface. But as Isaacman said, the more important thing is the race for the moon, the race to build moon bases. And there we're ahead because SpaceX did its first capture of a booster in 2015. China's first real capture was on Friday. And this really means we can get more stuff on the moon fast, which is really important. But also it means increasing the cadence of launches, which is really critical. So we're going to be doing, I think we're ahead right now, but we can't let up. And we really need SpaceX because that's how we get to the moon. That's how we get to Mars. And that's absolutely critical.
Yeah, and that's something that Elon Musk has talked about. It's fascinating to hear when he speaks about his plans and what the future what holds for all of us. Gordon Chang, it's great to see you. Thank you for being on set with us. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Cheryl.
All right, we're going to be right back. Everybody stay with us.